I'm in my zone, on the road to the Super Bowl. Every game on the schedule crucial and take a toll. It don't matter if we at home or on the road. You try to tackle, I'll truck a sucker and take it soul. I'm staring at 4th and goal, gotta find an open hole. A linebacker just close a hole where I'm supposed to go. So now I'm thinking my centers are all pro, so I trust he can make a walk for wherever the ball go. Tap the cue on the shoulder, that safety is coming over. I see that look in his eyes. If he slip, I'ma slide right under the tight end, curl over the right end. Long as the wide receiver block for me, I can jump right in. Yeah, there's 5 seconds on the play clock. The crowd was loud, but they stopped. Now it's silent while they watch. They stand off in the red zone. All I see is red home. Watch me get this touchdown and this W and head home.
Welcome in, Cowboys Nation, to the season finale of Cowboy Game Day Live, the pregame show here live at Walk On. Shouts out to Cowboys Experience, Triple Dog Whiskey, and of course, Walk On's hosting your boy Skywalker, Jesse Holley, former Dallas Cowboy, in the building. It's the last one of the regular season, but it's not the last one for the Cowboys. That's for sure. Yeah. It's a lot for the Cowboys to play for today, and we kind of got thrown a bit of a curveball.
A little bit,
and
a little sinker.
A little slider.
A little backdoor slider.
What's the one, the Ephus pitch?
I don't know.
It's the one where it's just mad slow. I think is what it's called.
That's the one. What was my boy name
from the Red Sox?
No, I'm talking
Tim Wakefield.
I'm talking about the movie where the kid floated.
Well, look, floated. We got thrown one. And we'll see how the Cowboys adjust. And we'll get to that, man. But appreciate y'all for joining us again for another edition of this, Jesse, another season finale. But Here's what's dope, man. This is year 3 in a row where it's not over at the end of the season. You know,
thoughts and prayers to all of you fans out there who teams stop playing football today, and y'all won't see another down of football for your team until sometime August of this year. Thoughts and prayers to you, because we can't relate. Well, what thoughts and prayers? So, y'all, I'm gonna give y'all some time to yourself to deal with that hurt after today is over and your football team is no longer in football playing existence for this season. Sorry, sorry. Can't relate.
Shouldn't have messed up. In the name of Cat Williams, shouldn't have been talking.
Shouldn't have been talking. Shouldn't have been talking.
Well, a lot of teams are playing right now still with a lot on the line.
Yes.
Coach Mike McCarthy was at the podium this week, and he said there will be more playoff games today than there will be next week. Yeah. And when he said that, I'm like, man, what a perspective, because there is. I mean, right now you got Detroit trying to hold on to a lead for the possibility of them getting the 2nd seed if the Cowboys and the Eagles slip up. You've got the Saints trying to put away the Falcons. They could potentially see the Cowboys if things go their way. Later on, you got Seattle, Green Bay. In the AFC, you've got the Miami and the Buffalo game, which the Buffalo game is playing you're in, but it's also win and you get the 2nd seed, lose and you go home, which I don't know if I've ever heard that before.
It's a wild situation.
It is a wild and wacky season. And then you have
other teams like Pittsburgh who needing other teams.
They won, but they got to sit here.
Yeah, they won, but now they have to wait and see what happens between Jacksonville and the Titans.
Other one. Yeah.
So it's a lot of playoff implications happening today in the football world.
A lot of them in the Cowboys.
Yes.
Because this is the Cowboys show, right? It's Cowboys channel. The Cowboys have playoff implications, not to get in, but if they win, they get the number 2 seed, which, yes, Cowboys Nation, you want your Dallas Cowboys to play at home throughout the playoffs, if possible, if the other team slips up. But at the very least, you host a playoff game or 2 if you handle your business. And to do that, you need to win, and you need to go out there, and we'll talk about it here in a second. I'd like to see the 4th quarter hat come on early, but they've been dealt some challenges. So let's kind of get into that real quick in regards to the inactives. Mm-hmm. Now, coming into this week, we figured Tyler Smith might be out
with the plantar fasciitis tear.
Yes,
full tear.
Yeah, and we'll talk about this in a second. I wonder if he could have played had this been a playoff do-or-die game. I'm just curious, right? Because you can play on that, but you also probably don't want to push him if you don't.
They said tearing it is actually better than the partial tear. So
so Tyler Smith is ruled out of this game. Sheldrick Redwine is inactive. Junior Fehoko, who they called up and then they put Deuce Vaughn on IR, is inactive today. Interesting. You figure to get him some tick, but he's inactive. Eric Scott, Noah Igman active. I can't believe he's been inactive. I thought it was going to be like a 1 or 2 week day.
Sorry, Noah and the Noah family.
Noah and the Noah family, we apologize, but your son got to get out there.
Yeah, you got to get out there. You got to get out there.
And then Trey Lance, for all these people that wanted to see Trey Lance this year. Also, for all these people that said Trey Lance was going to be the start quarterback at some point, you can eat a little bit of crow right now. Hopefully it tastes good because your quarterback is playing like an MVP quarterback in the league. So he's inactive, designated the emergency quarterback. But the big one that I got to drop a bomb on, man, Zach Martin. Zach Martin woke up and his stomach was, and he started not feeling good and maybe throwing up. I don't know. But he caught the bug. He caught this illness going around the facility down there at Dallas. And Zach Martin is ruled out today, Jesse. So no Tyler Smith, no Zach Martin. I know you got a lot of thoughts on this situation.
Yeah, man. This is the Cowboys come into this football game, and as the week began to progress, you kind of started off Monday like, oh, this one's in the bag, right? It's, get the hats and T-shirts out. The Cowboys win the division and all the other, and then you hear, well, Tyler Smith may not be playing. Okay, well, that's cool. TJ Bass has been more than a formidable backup in those positions. Cool, we'll find with everybody else still hat and T-shirt. And now you hear this news, and then to me is when you start having these lineman issues. And the reason why it worries me a little bit is because even though Washington has a lot of their players out.
Yeah, we didn't talk about them. Yeah, Jonathan Allen being one of them.
One of the problems the Cowboys have had, even when they've been healthy, has been the interior part of this offensive line.
Yes.
All right. And we all know, where do quarterbacks hate to have the pressure come from? In their face, meaning the interior of the defense. And now you already are, battling with Tyler Biadasz with his size and his inability.
I think he got sick too. So,
right. So, and then now we're talking about being on the road, communication, right? We saw what happened when Chuma Edoga was out there and he had those mental farts and he was letting Bradley Chubb off the edge to just run free after your quarterback. Now you have two guards in there today who don't normally play, and now you're trying to get the communication right. You have your first cousin, Terrence Steele, who has had his struggles this year blocking and holding up his blocks on the edge. Now, I'm not saying that Washington up front is what they used to be with Chase Young and the Bama boys and all that kind of stuff, because they are not.
Right.
But there are still football players on that other side, and we'll get into the Washington side of things. But there is a little bit of concern to me when you're talking about trying to go out there and not only win a football game, but at the end of the day, even if you don't win, are we protecting our quarterback?
Yeah.
Right? Because here's where you start talking about now, and I'm not speaking wishful or trying to wish anything to happen on the quarterback, but here's where you start talking about, interior pressure. He goes to throw the football, helmets are involved. Hit his hand on the helmet. Here's where you start talking about guys not knowing who to block. A guy comes free, a guy gets hit, concussions, knees, shoulders, backs, ribs. All these type of things begin to happen when you're talking about missing, offensive linemen, but two interior offensive linemen in a game like this on the road. And while Washington has nothing tangible to play for, boy, would they love nothing more than to end the year with beating the Cowboys and hindering their opportunity to win the division.
And that's why, one of the things we were talking about, behind the scenes, you got to put them away early.
Yes.
No mercy, right? Because at the end of the day, they don't care that your guys are out, and you got TJ Bass and possibly Hoffman or Chuma in that guard. And you shouldn't care that they're sitting half of their starters as well. And so that is the concerning aspect of the situation. I don't really think there's a positive aspect to this. But on the other side, while you don't have your two starting guards, Washington also doesn't have their most disruptive interior guy in Jonathan Allen. While you don't have your two starting guards, Washington has been – you played this unit in Dallas, granted in Dallas, and they couldn't touch the quarterback. I mean, they have a horrendous pass rush. But they're going to be the small amount of players. Who's the kid that we drafted out of Arkansas? Big John Ridgeway, right?
Yep.
The Ridgeways, the third or fourth, not round pick, but third or fourth string guy who's trying to make a name for himself.
Absolutely.
Who's not going to have any pity for you. That's going to try to tear Dak's head off.
Right.
So there is that kind of, I called it weird. This is a very weird game.
Yeah.
Because Dallas needs to go out there and win, but it's not a must win. If you want to factor it as a must win, sure, but it's not literally a win or go home.
Right.
Because I believe if it was a win or go home, Zach is probably getting IV'd up and Tyler is probably playing. But at the end of the day, you want the second seed.
Yeah.
So you can't come out here and do what we haven't really said a lot this year because they haven't done that, but play with your food. The Cowboys have done a good job against inferior opponents of not playing with their food. And that's one of my things. I had 5 different things I talked about this week was coming out and getting out to a fast start. This was very interesting to me, Jesse. I don't even know if you realize this. You probably wouldn't unless you go back and you chart it. They have not scored a single point, let alone a touchdown, on an opening drive on the road since week 1. Wow. I was stunned when I went and looked at that. Now, they had a chance to score points in Miami, but they fumbled. So if the Cowboys want to put that fourth quarter hat on early, they've got to get out to a fast start for me, Jesse.
No, I'm right there with you. And again, getting out to a fast start, because I think this Washington team, I think early on, they will play, because there's reports out right now that Ron Rivera may not be brought back next year, right? And I'm not in the Washington locker room. Well, I don't cover the Washington Commanders on a daily basis, so I don't know what the relationship is between players and coach. So if Ron Rivera is going out, I don't know what his pregame speech might be. They may be amped up and riled up to say, you know what, let's go out there and win one for coach.
Win one for the Gipper.
One for the Gipper, right? Eric Bieniemy, he's another guy who's out there still auditioning for a head coaching job, right? He's still trying to prove some things. So who knows what he may scheme up in the grand scheme of things. They may take more shots. They may be more. I mean, one thing we should not get hit with today, another fake punt, right? Like that should be on high alert. Right? That should be on high alert. But again, these are the type of games where Washington has nothing to lose. Why not try everything? Yeah. Right. And so the Cowboys have to make sure that they come out, and football is a very weird lady. And there's things that can happen that you don't intend for it to happen. Right. You know, the pass is there. The guy is open last minute. A hand gets up. The ball gets tipped and they get intercepted. Right. I'm not saying that this Washington defensive front can't get to the quarterback. It's like you said, weird things can happen in these situations. And we've been around long enough. I've been around. You've been around covering this team, watching this team, where we've seen weird things happen to this football team and they not turn out on the positive end for the Cowboys. So you're absolutely right. This Washington team will have some fight early on, but if you come in and you give them nothing to fight about, they'll pack up. Yeah, they'll definitely pack up. Most of these guys, if not all of these guys, have already shipped their cars to their off-season homes, have packed up their temporary living spaces, and they're waiting for their exit interviews on Monday to get to where they got to get to. So, but like I said on my shows all week long, there is a competitive spirit that these NFL players have. And as someone who's played in this league, I understand that you can't turn it off and on. But if you give me a reason to lay down my hat and go, you know what, this thing is over. I ain't trying to get hurt. I ain't trying to be in this offseason, dealing with rehab. I'm going to give it up. But if we're in the third quarter and we're in the fourth quarter and it's a 3-point game, it's a 1-score game, and the Cowboys haven't taken control of the game, that competitive spirit will keep itself alive. Yeah. And now naturally. Yeah. And now what you've given hope to the hopeless. You've given a little bit of life to the lifeless. You've given some optimism to a bunch of people who want to be pessimistic in their approach to this game. So for the Cowboys, it is imperative that you come out, lay the hammer down early in this football game, and watch this Washington team fold up like some cheap tents.
100%, man. And there is another part, a competitive part that we were also talking about where you haven't really played your best ball in Washington in the last 2 or 3 years. Yep. They've always given you, granted, that is basically Cowboys home game East. I used to go to Washington games just about every year, every other year. It is probably going to be $50. And in this case,
60,
it might
40.
be 70-30,
Right.
60-40 because their season's over.
Right.
And they don't, the
Them
stadium is
sold.
terrible. Them tickets are sold.
It might be 80-20.
It might, it might be a home game.
It might be.
Here we go. You might here we go out there. So, there is that aspect, but there's also just it's
they trying to get that
there.
Christmas money back. They're getting that Christmas and New Year's money. The money that the Commander fans spent on Christmas and New Year's, they're getting it back today because they want the Cowboys. They sold those Cowboy tickets. I mean, they sold their tickets to the Cowboys fans.
So there is that aspect, but there's also context, and we were talking about where previously over the last 2 or 3 seasons, the Washington football people's defense was respectable at the least, or actually really good.
Yep.
Last year, when Dallas went down there in Week 18, that was the number 1 or top 5 pass defense. They were top 10 in red zone. They were top 10 in third down defense. That was actually a pretty damn good defense over there. And let's just be real, the way they ran that game, they were clearly like not trying to show their hand. It was just that obvious. But you played bad, and you put that out there. Granted, next week you came back and played great. But this year, even with the injuries to up front, or the guy sitting out, let me say up front, even with them potentially playing their butts off for their quarterback, one for the Gipper, at the end of the day, this is still the 32nd ranked defense in yards, 32nd ranked defense in points scored for, 32nd ranked defense in pass touchdowns, 31st ranked defense in pass yards, 30th defense in turning the ball over. This is still a poor defense, right? That is now sitting half of their starters.
Yeah.
So part of me, and this could be unfair, I don't know, as a fan, because we think like this a lot. As a fan, I'm saying, I don't care if you're missing 2 guys. They're missing 7, and they are the worst defense. Does that make sense as a fan thinking that way? Like, okay, yes, you're missing 2, but they're missing 7, and they're terrible. You should still go out there and whoop their ass.
No, I agree with you 100%. But again, the game has to be played. And we've seen what it's like on the other side as well. So it's like, yeah, they're supposed to be this, but if you don't come out and make them this,
true,
then they aren't.
True.
Right? That is the thing. It's like, oh yeah, here's what they are on paper. Now go out there and make them actually be that in real time. If you give them the opportunity, if you have the lackadaisical, thought process and what you're doing and how you're approaching this, then you make a 32nd ranked defense all across the board feel like they're 15th.
And if it feel like that, that's all. That's the small sliver of hope they need.
That's all they need. And that's the thing that makes it weird because, again, we've been around long enough to see, is CD better than all the guys that they're going to probably have to defend him? Yes. But what happens if CD Lamb slips on a slant route and the ball hits the cornerback in the chest? Pick 6. Right? No fault to CD Lamb. No fault to Dak Prescott. It just happened. Now the 32nd ranked defense all across the board got a touchdown on the board because of a slip, right? It's all these small things that can happen in the game, and that's why the Cowboys have to come out and be clean.
Yeah,
right. Have the communication be there. I agree with you 100%. I think this will be Cowboy East. It will be a heavy Cowboy crowd, so there should not be a communication issue. And it should be very clear when Dak Prescott is making changes in audibles. He has to make sure, you know what? I do have 2 backup guards in here. Let me make sure that I'm making the necessary changes with time left on the clock, because I want to give them a second or 2 to actually process what's happening, what's going on. This is not Zach Martin. This is not the future Hall of Famer. This is not Tyler Smith, who got every single rep at practice into the starter. These 2 guys have to now hear the audible. Okay, that's the audible. Okay, here's my change. Okay, now let's go. Right? Instead of making it, okay, here's the audible and we go right now, and now guy may be playing a little bit hesitant because they're not sure of the call that they got from the quarterback. So those are the small little factors that you think about in a game that when you sometimes as the quarterback think, as I'm just going, but you have to remember, take a deep breath and go, those 2 guys need a breath. They need to make sure that we're on the same page because we want to be clean, efficient, and effective in what we do. And I think if you do that, don't kill yourself. Don't have drive killers. Don't get to the goal line, damn it, and fumble.
That's another one I got here, man. Look, bro, like you got better in the red zone from the first 4 or 5 games of the season. You've been better. but the last two, right? You've squandered opportunities to in Miami. You could potentially that game maybe changes, right? You could say, well, we win the game, but it's a different ball game at the very least. It's kind of the same thing with Detroit. If you don't fumble that game, this is likely not to say a blowout, maybe a double-digit win though at the crib because you get up a little bit more and everything changes, right? So you've got to
both
correct
of those
that.
are self-inflicted,
right?
So
they didn't knock it out.
It didn't matter what the defense break was. They didn't knock it out.
No.
Hunter Linsky fumbled the handoff, and then CeeDee Lamb turned and tried to go extend it and lost the football.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter what the ranking is. It was self-inflicted on us. We did that. We caused our own injuries. And so those are the type of things I'm talking about. Like, don't make the 32nd ranked defense number one by the things that you consistently do to yourself to kill your drives, to kill your momentum, to kill your scoring opportunities. If they're 32nd in the league in all those categories, then make them that. Keep them there. Don't give them opportunities by your own stupidity, your own self-inflicted wounds to make them better than what they actually are.
So this type of game to me feels like your focus has to be a little bit sharper because it is against a team that has nothing to lose, where you have, I don't say everything to lose, but you've got, like, make no mistake about it. Let me just say this real quick. Those players in that locker room, your quarterback came out and said, we understand what the number 2 seed means to us. We understand that it can put us in great position to get to where we want to get to. So there's going to be a sense of don't press too hard at the end of the day.
That's big, though. Like,
that is.
Like, and because we've had the conversation, you'll get back. I'm let you get back to your point. We've had the conversation many pregame, post games about the fact of the matter of, what's wrong with this football team on the road? What's wrong with them?
Yeah.
How can they fix it? How can they figure it out? Oh, wow, what this team is at home. We also had the conversation many, many times before about, is this an impactful thing on the mind of the players? That coming out telling you how big this is for him and wanting to have those home games tells you all you need to know. That we want to have home games because we are much better at home. I would prefer not to go on the road and have to play different opponents. Yes, I would love the number 2 seed. So it is a great deal of pressure that's put on the Cowboys in the sense that, you know what, winning the division gives you an advantage that you feel that you need because of your inability to prove to yourself, to the fans, and everyone else involved that going on the road, no matter who you're playing, really isn't a thing that you really want to do because of what you've done this year in the season.
Yeah, you're 100% a better team at the crib, no doubt about it, but they're going to have to get it done on the road. And of late, it's been the offense that's been a little bit funny. And I think I told you this, one of the things I wanted to see them kind of work on was the run game tweaks. Because they talked about how, hey, we've been watching the film. We're going to work on that this week, et cetera, et cetera. But now, no Tyler Smith, no Zach. There's a little part of me that earlier in the year when the Cowboys were facing some O-line issues up front, Mike kind of got a bit tight, right? Got a bit conservative, excuse me here. He got a bit tight. He got a bit conservative. I don't think Mike can afford to do that in this game. I think you need to go out there and try to execute your game plan so you can get that early lead. But one of the keys for me, and I don't know, I'm a little torn on this, Jesse. I wanted to see them tweak the running game so that it can be better in the playoffs. But now, without those guys, how is it really? Is it really tweaking? Because those dudes aren't going to play in the playoffs. So do you just say, okay, look, I get it. We have to work on the run game, but we are who we are. We're a passing team. Go out here and lean on our strengths, and let's get the heck up out of here in the third quarter.
Yeah, my thing to that is that, get up really big on this football team, and then in the second half, we can work on those run tweaks, right?
Okay,
we can work on those things. And even because now I can work on the run game with Cooper Rush. I don't need Dak Prescott to be in there.
That's true, too.
Right? So I don't need Dak to be in there. And for the most part, here's what we're playing with. Tyler Biadasz, you're staying in the game. TJ Bass, you're staying in the game. Chumi Doga, you're staying in the game. Terrence, you're staying in the game. Now, we may pull out Tyron later on in the game, and we may have to shuffle some things around, but I still want to get on some film, some run fits. Part of the biggest issue with the Cowboys is in the run game, it's the outside guy, but it's their center as well. It's being able to get up and get to that second level, to cut the blocks off, to make things easier for the running back. Terrence, Tony Pollard has been either met or hit behind the line a lot.
Yeah.
Like he's not his report doesn't say, oh yeah, first contact is 3 yards past the line of scrimmage. No. His first contact is coming like at 1.5 yards behind the line of scrimmage. Like he's dealing with that more often than he's dealing with it being on the plus side of the line of scrimmage. So the run fits can still be worked out. You don't need your starters in. The guys who are going to play are going to play. But you need to see those things happen on film. You need to see the blocks happen because who knows? Who knows what's going to happen in the playoffs? You may need these guys.
To your point, Tony Pollard, top 10 in rushing coming into the week. Of the top 10 rushers, he's last in the league with yards before contact, meaning he's getting met before any of the top 10 rushers in the National Football League before he gets a chance to move. But then on the flip side, I believe he's top 5 or 6 in yards after contact. So he's having to create more yards after contact than anyone except actually he's second to Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry has to create more yards than anyone. Then it's Tony Pollard. Pollard having to create more yards, and he has created more yards than anyone. So, yeah, I would like to see the run game get going a little bit here. But real quick update in the NFL around the league. Watching this Titans game here, it is looking like this is unbelievable. The Houston Texans are going to win the AFC South.
Wow.
In their first year with Bobby Slowick and D'Amico Ryans and Stroud, man. So huge props to those guys.
There is your offensive rookie of the year
and coach of the
year.
100%, man.
Easy.
I mean, that just goes to show you, man, when you are able to get into a good situation and you're a talented player.
Culture.
Man, it matters so much. It matters so much. So congratulations to the Houston Texans.
And with Tennessee winning, I believe that means Pittsburgh is in the playoffs. Pittsburgh
has made the playoffs, which I believe, this was the case anyway for Buffalo. It's win or you're out.
You're out.
Or you're out. So that was
Mike
always
Tomlin,
the case.
This is 17 consecutive seasons for Mike Tomlin without a losing record.
Yeah.
It's big.
More playoff games today
Yeah.
than any other week. So that's there. Let's get back to this Cowboys game here. On the other side of the ball, the defensive side of the ball, there doesn't seem to be any of the starters sitting out on this one. And for their side, they're going to be, I think they're sitting some of their guards or tackles. They're sitting guys as well. And I think it was you or somebody that said this. This week is the incentive week.
That's me.
Right? This is the incentive week. And I know there's a lot of guys over there that have some incentives today to hit. But I also think there's one player I just was thinking about. I want to talk to you about it. In Micah, who not the incentive. I think this dude wants to go berserk today to send a message to say, hey, I know TJ got hurt and he's probably going to win the award, but he really wants this one bad. And this is against a bad offensive line. And I know you've been asking for one of those 3-sack type games, but would not shock me if that were to be today. I don't know if it's going to be enough, though,
right?
But it will shock me if that be today.
Well, even on top of that, he came out this week and you look at, he wants to get off the number 13. His first year in the league, he had 13 sacks. Last year, he had 13.5. Right now, he's sitting on 13.5. So he even said the week, I want 14.
He said, I'll jump off sides
right,
if I need to.
But Micah says that jokingly.
Oh, no, Micah really wants
but means it wholeheartedly.
Yes.
And those are the little things that I'm talking about in a weird type of game. And I'm not saying that Micah's going to, hurt his team or try to purposely hurt his team. But there are those moments in time where, okay, Micah, you do jump off sides, right? And it's a free play. And your DBs stop because they think, oh, he jumped off sides. We're good. And Sam Howell, what do you always call Sam Howell and Eric Bieniemy? What are they? Pusher-mans.
Pusher-mans, yeah.
They throw the ball down the football field. And what should have been a sack ends up being a touchdown because you jumped off sides. They thought the play was over. The ref let the play on. And that was a free play, and they heave one down the field for a touchdown. Like those are the weird things that can happen.
But yes,
But have we not seen that before?
No, we have not seen that this year.
We've not seen a quarterback, a player jump off sides. The refs not stop the ball.
Not against the Cowboys, is what I'm saying.
But we've seen it happen.
We've seen it in the league. We've seen it. That is an extreme case, but
that's
a
normal case that we've seen. We've sat in this restaurant. And you've screamed at the top of your lungs, that's a free play.
Yeah, and for us, but I'm talking about for the Cowboys' sake. I get what you're saying, but that's really extreme for the Cowboys.
Boy, you bet. I swear to God, you
seriously,
better hope that not happen today.
All seriousness,
you better hope that not happen today.
All seriousness, how many times have you seen it?
I'm gonna tackle you.
All
I'm going to tackle you in this restaurant today. Just know, if Scott come back and his hat a little off, a little crooked, just know that I tackled him in this restaurant.
All right, I'm on record. I'll be 10 toes now. I feel confident if Micah jumps off sides, the Cowboys will be fine. Cowboys. In fact, we just seen it last week in the 2-point conversion, and the Cowboys were fine in it. So I'm just saying, I get what you mean by weird things can happen for sure. I thought you were going.
Didn't they score when he jumped off sides?
No, they didn't.
Oh,
no, they stopped it.
Okay, they stopped it.
I thought you were going to go was, okay, Micah's trying to play hero ball. That's where I thought you were going to go.
That's
with this
Micah.
one.
That is not unusual.
That's not unusual. but if I'm trying to get 3-4 sacks right, and he goes inside, now Sam Howell, goes outside, hits a running back or something like that. That could be a thing where you say, hey, Mike, I know you want to go out here and you want to get 4 sacks to put everybody on notice, but let's just go do our job, get this victory, and get the heck up out of here, brother. We don't need you to go out there and try to be Superman. Where we let's be honest, the Cowboys defense has a massive advantage on the other side of the ball.
Absolutely.
So you don't need to go out there and do anything crazy, if that makes sense.
No, the Cowboys are good enough regular. Like, you don't need spicy
Right.
Cowboy. You don't need souped up Cowboy. You don't need Dan Quinn to go into his bag of all bags. The Cowboys by themselves are good enough to beat this football team if they don't kill themselves. They are good enough by themselves. If they just go out there and play a regular game of football, they're good enough to beat this football team. It's when you start trying to do things outside of what you need to, that's when it can get a little bit shaky.
Yeah.
But they don't have to. Like, if Dan Quinn called a normal football game, that is more than enough for them to go out there and dominate this game. When it mattered the most, when it mattered during the season, they didn't do anything super duper special to dominate this team. They went out there and they played football. So that's my biggest thing, is just go out there and not get beside yourself, not try to, whoever has a sentence. Now, I want you to get your money. I am always a fan of players getting their money. If you a sack away, a couple tackles, or a pick away,
strategically, Cloudy.
Yeah, that's, bro, $750K.
Cloudy said, I got a sack. And he went berserk. Hey, congratulations.
$750K.
Yeah, that's big.
Bro, that's big. That's
and I don't think
huge.
he was getting. So I don't even think he was getting a lot. So that is huge.
That's almost $1 million.
Yeah, shout out to
on one play.
On
one play. Yeah, let me get that.
So another thing, I had like 5 things to talk about this week. The road is just weird for Dallas. It's just weird, man. But the last 4 road games, first of all, they only have 7 turnovers on the road in general. 3 of them came in one game against I believe it was the Giants.
Jets? Oh, Giants.
I think it was the Giants the first week of the season.
Yeah.
But the last 4 weeks, the last 4 road games, they've only created a turnover in 1 of them. And I know a lot of people can say, well, you win this game, you're not playing on the road. Well, you still might play on the road against that big bad team on the West Coast, left coast, but that's a different discussion. Nonetheless, I'd like to see them gain a little momentum in that department, not just on the offense side of the ball. We talk about the running game and whatnot, but get back to being that defense that you were the last 2 seasons under Dan Quinn. They were top 5, the number 1 team in turnovers. They're not going to finish number 1 unless they get like 10 interceptions a day, but they're still will finish in the top 10. So that's something on that side of the ball I'd like to see them do. I don't know if there's much else that I'm really looking at them to do.
Yeah, that's coming.
Because
they're getting turnovers today.
Because they're going to throw the ball. How's going to throw the rock.
He's going to throw at least 1 interception. 100%.
At very least. He leads the league
that's what I'm saying.
19.
At least 1. He's going to give you that. You can put 1 on the book. I don't care who you give it to. 1's just checking for 1. Now, 2 and 3, I don't know.
Nice to see Deron get a pick 6.
I would love to see Deron get a pick 6. That would be 6 and 10 interceptions. That
you got to talk about him.
That might put him back in the defensive player of the year word. If he gets 6 INTs for touchdowns and 10 picks on a year.
If he gets 6 and 10 and don't win it, no DB is ever winning it.
No. Right? Ever. Never. Especially with no one having like 20 plus sacks.
Yeah, nobody got 20 plus.
Yeah, no. If a guy has 10 picks and 6 of them are returned for touchdowns,
crazy.
Come on. Come on. Like,
he got more touchdowns than a lot of receivers.
Yeah.
Like high-end receivers.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know about that one. But at first, I was thinking about, maybe, because one of my questions was, and I'll still ask this question to you, who needs to have a spark plug type of game to take this momentum into the postseason?
J-Ron Curse.
So defensively, J-Ron would be nice. I was thinking like, what about the run defense or the linebackers? But I look at this team, bro, they don't even run the ball. Like, the Washington doesn't run the ball enough.
Right.
They're last in the league in attempts. They just won't do it. So I don't think they're going to do it enough for me to really get any type of confidence, especially since you played two of the best run teams the last 2 weeks, and for the most part fared well. Was it perfect? No, especially when you break down the film. But when you look at it holistically, you played against two top 5 rush offenses extremely well. So now I'll go back to the original question: who needs to carry over some momentum? It could be offense, defense, it could be coaching. And you say J-Ron. That's a good one, because when you think about the matchups you could potentially be playing. Now I know the situation in Detroit happened. You could be seeing some top tight ends, right? Yeah. You could be seeing some of these guys that J-Ron's going to be matched up against. And in reality, man, J-Ron just hasn't been the same J-Ron, in my opinion, in regards to even in the run game, to be honest, in my opinion. I don't even think he's been that. He's been average at best this year. And if he's your third best safety and the third best safety is average, you take it, but that's not what you really thought you were going to get from J-Ron. So you got J-Ron.
Yeah, I got J-Ron.
For me, I was going to go linebacker. I was going to go Damone, guys like that. I flip it though. And I'm not even saying this dude has been playing bad or nothing, but I would like to see like a spark plug game from Osa, right? Okay. Because he's been good this year for sure, no doubt about it. But I like to see one of those games where he's 7 pressures, just gets the sack and a half, 2 sacks or something like that. Because when you get into the postseason, Micah's going to be Micah.
Yep.
But you're going to need somebody. D-Law's going to be Law. But you're going to need somebody else to be a factor down in, down out. And pressures are amazing too. Don't get me wrong. But I'd like to see him get those pressures back up. So I got Osa on the defensive side of the ball as, man, I love to see kind of a spark plug game, because he's going to be a guy that's going to play like 70, 80% of the snaps.
Absolutely.
So it got to be one of those guys that's going to be out there, not necessarily a part-time guy, but a guy that's going to play down in, down out. So that's my answer for defense. What will be your answer on the other side of the ball? A guy to kind of gain some momentum heading into the postseason.
Your first cousin,
Terrence.
It is imperative.
He definitely,
it is imperative. It is imperative, because what you deal with in the playoffs, unlike in the regular season, that game plan is so centralized. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, so here's what I mean by that. When you're dealing and battling throughout the season, your conference opponents, right? Your Giants, your Commanders, your Eagles of the world. Those game plans are kind of almost stocked, right? Like a stock, like not like out of the factory. Yeah. And then you add pieces to them because you know them. You have so much familiarity with this football team. And then everything week to week to week to week, there's only so much. Like when the coach says, yeah, we're going to tweak this, that's very little. It's very little because you don't have that much time in a calendar week. The way the league has changed, you only get an hour and a half on the practice field. So you're watching film. So there's only so many things that you can really tweak in a week. When you get into the playoffs, it's win or go home. So the hours of detail are spent more meticulously in this part of the season than in any other part of the season. And now I'm saying, if this is the matchup that we can attack, oh boy, are we building a masterful game plan to attack it. And we're going to attack it over and over and over and over until they fix it. Because you know that everything is riding on this. So teams now are going to be, Marquise Bell, get ready, my boy. Because when we get in the playoffs,
they're attacking
you. They're going to build a game plan that says our run game and run scheme will be designed where he's going to have to take on a block. So that's what I mean by that. And so for me, it's Terrence Steele meaning to have a feel-good game, right? Be able to go back and watch film and not have the anxiety, because I know what it is to know when you didn't effed up, right? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, he almost got Dak.
Took
him out last week.
On Aiden Hutchinson
twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I mean,
He saved him, but he also put him in that position.
You put him in that position because if you weren't there and the 800 came down,
I think that
our discussion would have been totally different this week.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I don't think we're talking about.
We don't talk. Playoffs. We're like, oh well, I guess, I hope. But yeah. So for me, it's Terrence Steele. He needs to have something on the film that he can go out and go, you know what? I played well. I can carry that into the playoffs.
I like that one, and I could give you two, but I'm gonna give you the main one, but I'm gonna try to connect it with Terrence.
Give me one of the possible.
Give you one of the possible. TP, Tony Pollard.
Mr. Pender is down.
Teddy Pendergrass. I got Tony here because we haven't seen that big giant play from Tony this year, and a lot of that, and that's why I say it's like one of the possible, is because you haven't been given those type of free running lanes that he had been in the past up front. So even if it's him creating it or it's the line creating it, I feel like if you can pop off a couple of those big ones, at the very least, not even for your confidence, but just to put it on tape, that whoever you're going to see in round one and beyond can say, okay, they can create a crease, or he can pop off a 55, 60, 70 yarder. He does have a 60-yard play this year on the road from out of a passing game. But if we can get coming,
that was the one with Dak scramble and dump it off.
Yep, and he made like one or two guys miss it and then didn't realize he had a guy behind him. But if we can see him kind of and 45 yards, another one, or just a clean lane, right? And it plants that foot and he's gone for 60, 65. That will kind of give you that finally, right? We saw that kind of TP big play heading into the playoffs, and you can kind of check that off the box because you haven't seen it. So, and I'm not saying it has to be him creating them himself. That's why I say it possible, because hell, I don't care if it's Hoffman or Chuma and Terrence on one side put them together, or if it's TJ Bass and Tyler Biotish creating that lane. But if they can put that back on film, and like you said, you go back and you say, yeah, I know. For Tony Pollard, I knew I still had that. Right. I just haven't been given an opportunity, but I knew I still have that. And now going into the playoffs, maybe there's and again, you can speak on this better than I can, but maybe there's some confidence that you finally saw it and it makes a difference.
It's no different in every single sport. A hitter's in a slump. When he finally gets one to crack off the bat and for a home run, you feel better about that. A shooter's in a slump. He sees a couple free throws, the ball goes in the basket, he's out of his slump. It's the same thing. A guy drop a ball a couple times, now he catches a big one. Now you only need that little bit of a spark, that little bit of a feeling, because all these guys are hyper competitive. All these guys understand that I'm hyper and super talented. Like TP doesn't lack the confidence of knowing that I'm talented. He doesn't like that. He knows I'm still fast. I'm still a good player. I just haven't had an opportunity to fully display it. And I think, to your point, breaking one of those, having one of those moments kind of gives you that, it kind of gives you that little swag back in your step a little bit, and that can carry you into the playoffs and be a tremendous boost for you, your confidence, and your football team.
I 100% agree, man. Those are some good ones. So we said also on this side, J-Ron on defense, offense, Tony Pollard, Terrence Steele, and if you really want to throw a possible in there, just that offensive line in general. From a pass game standpoint, they've been okay. I mean, Terrence has given up some of those sacks or what have you, but I really want to see them just get some momentum on the run game. But then the weird stuff happening with Zach out, Tyler out. It's like, even if they do, those guys aren't going to be in the game. But at the end of the day, usually, and we're going to finish up the show with this one, usually I say, Cowboys need to do what to win, right? Cowboys win if
they show up.
There you go.
Take it up. If the buses
make a complicated one, bro.
If the buses make it from whatever hotel they're staying in to FedEx Field.
You mean literally show up?
I mean literally show up.
I would lean into
literally show up.
But I remember we said that same thing earlier in the year in Arizona.
No, I didn't say that.
No, we were saying if they just show up today. But
okay.
Part of me says, I'm gonna use your term. Yes, if they show up on the field. Okay. Does that make sense? Like, we say, hey, you gotta show up. You can't just roll your hat out. That's kind of how I look like that. When we say, hey, this team got beat by a worse team because you rolled your helmet out and thought I was just gonna go out here, kick my feet back, and everything is good to go. I do think there needs to be a sense of you got to show up in between the field, not necessarily just, hey, we here at FedEx Field, everything is good to go. Because we just talked about the weird stuff that could happen during the show.
All right, so let me ask you this. Then, in that aspect, where are you in? Because I'll tell you where I was at all week long. Where are you in the aspect of just win the game or win the game with the level of confidence that you feel good about going into the playoffs? Like, not saying you have to beat them out 40-0. That would be nice. But if it's a game when you come down to it and your starters have to play into the fourth quarter and Aubrey has to kick a field goal to win the game, are you confident? You just say, well, all right, we won. I'm good. That makes you feel good? Or you say, you know what? We should really be winning this thing going away.
Yeah, that's what sucks about this game. I don't think anything changes my mind by winning big. Like, you win big, whatever. You've done that all year against bad teams, right? And that's kind of, I don't want to say lose, but that's kind of on the winning side, that's the lose side. Because if you win big, it's like, whatever. It's Washington. The other lose side is if you win close like that, now the national media, maybe yourself, I hope not though, but maybe yourself, fans will be like, dang, man, we squeaked out a victory against Washington, right? So just play well. And I hate to use something I saw on TV, but if the Cowboys play well, they win comfortably. It was comfortably 40-3. It's comfortably by 15-17. They're win comfortably. So if they play tight, like if it's Aubrey kicks a game winner with no seconds left, I don't think they play well. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they play well if it comes down to that.
Right.
But if they play well, Dak is sitting he's sitting on the fourth quarter bench with his hat on, right? Everything is good to go. Maybe it's a 17-point game with 3 minutes left. It is what it is. It's not a 40-point victory, but it's a comfortable enough victory. So all week for me, it's been just go out there and put that fourth quarter hat on. Not that it changes my mind going into the playoffs. Like, if they win 40-0, I'm not going to be like, yeah, the most dominant team heading into the playoffs. I'm not, because this is Washington.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Yeah. Now, if they go out there, and this is what sucks, they go out there and Brandon Aubrey kicks a game with a field goal. Maybe it ain't fair, but I'm like, man, that's not good. You know, that's you didn't want to go into the playoffs like that, but you got the victory. You won the East. Now let's start all over. Where were you at this week on that side?
Me all week, I would say that this team needs to have an impressive, like, almost style point victory. I just think, having a style point game on the road, I don't care who it is, you struggled on the road this year.
You do.
No matter who you played on the road, you struggled on the road this year. But again, it goes back to we talking about Tony Pollard. It's having the confidence. It's leaving this game knowing that, all right, cool. We got a couple alley-oops. We got a couple shots that went in. Guys feeling good about themselves. Tony Pollard gets a 60-yard run. Guys block things up. And I think it's a feel-good going into the playoffs. You kind of leave no doubt. You kind of leave yourself in a situation where you're saying, all right, cool. Now we can go in here. We get our other two guys back. We put this thing together, and we figure out where we go next. To me, a tight, close game, and you barely squeak a game out in this one. That's because I look at the last couple weeks, right? I look at the last couple weeks.
That's also fair too, right? Because if you don't play well in this game, you could argue that's 4 games in a row you haven't played complimentary football.
And that's what I'm saying.
4 quarters.
And we talk about this team peaking towards the playoffs. That wouldn't be a peaking into the playoffs to me. That would be looking at saying, well, Buffalo, Miami, Detroit. I don't know. I don't feel peakish. That's
how weird this team is, bro. 2 years ago, that specific scenario happened, right? They went on the road, almost similar situation, although Philly was already in the playoffs and Washington's out. Philly rests everybody. They're playing backups, go on the road, I think Sunday Night Football, whatever it was, and you blow the brakes off of them. You break all the records. Cowboys, most touchdowns scored. Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott gets 1,000 yards, and all the 10 touchdowns, 10 sacks, 10 picks, all the craziness. Very next week, you go out at the crib and you lose to San Francisco. Mm-hmm. The next year, you go on the road against Washington. You played your worst ball of the year, your worst ball for Dak Prescott, the worst of his career. But then the very next week, the best ball of the season, the best ball of your career. You did something you hadn't done since like 92, which was win on the road in the playoffs. So this team is extremely, extremely weird when it comes to that. So that's why I say I don't even know where you can fit in with this one.
That's fair.
It's
that's
just
fair.
such a
that's
strange
fair.
team.
That's
bro.
fair.
It's a strange team. It's a strange week. And that's why I just would like to see them play well, rest. And as long as this thing is a comfortable victory, I think you can go into the playoffs with confidence.
I'll take that. That's fair.
You know what I'm saying?
That's fair.
That's
and health.
Oh,
health.
Buck all that.
Yeah, health.
Number one, get in the playoffs healthy.
Yeah.
Just go into the. I ain't gonna put this out there, but that is honestly, that's for real the number one thing.
Yeah.
That's the number one thing, Cowboys Nation. All right, kickoff is in 5 minutes. You also have at the same dang time over there, probably down the street, right, in New York. Yeah, in New York. The Eagles and the Giants, but you can put that to rest. You don't got to worry about them as long as you go out there and handle business. We will be back at halftime for the Cowboys halftime show, Game Day Live halftime show. And as I always say this, I ain't trying to come on here with no dang attitude. It's been an attitude the last 3 weeks. I've been pissed off over here the last 3 weeks. Y'all might not really seen it when I come on live because I got to be, I got to button myself back up.
But Sky hat crooked. Know what happened. Know that play happened. Know the play happened.
Oh,
know the play happened.
If my shirt ripped a little bit, might get a one offside, so I got 75 yards.
Know what happened.
if you see me with this hat on because the other one is gone. You stupid, bro. We see y'all at halftime.